my sterile gloves. Let's see, I'm gonna check my patient first. Let's do that. So I'm going to keep that right where I can see it, because once you have a sterile field going, you don't want that to get out of your line of sight. You always need to keep a sterile field in your sight or it's considered contaminated. So we'll use dorsal recumbent. And you know, you can do the really cool little wrap if you want on your patient. But you do want to respect your patient's privacy and dignity and not expose them any more than is absolutely necessary. So you want to inspect. I would have gloves on. Make sure that I know where the meatus is. Okay, so I see it. It looks pretty good. I'm not worried about not being able to find that one. Okay, so now I'm going to come back and put on the gloves.
Having your patient covered like that, I've had them tell me it makes them more comfortable too. Because I've done it both ways, and I guess this patient has had it done both ways, and she felt like she wasn't as exposed when you kept her as covered as possible.
Coming up from the bottom instead of down from the
Yeah.
top. Okay, so I'm opening my sterile gloves. Is it okay to touch this?
Yeah.
Sure, it's just the wrapper, right? Again, this is the kind of stuff that I see students get into angst about. It's okay to touch this. You can touch the outside, it's fine. So you don't have to be going, no, it's okay to touch it, okay? And touch it like crazy. Opening it up. These want to fold back on themselves because the folds are really sharp. So make sure that you've got it so that it stays open. There's a little lip. Have you guys practiced with sterile gloves yet? Okay, so that's part of today. So there's a little fold that you want to grab, open it up, snap. I always give it a little snap so it stays open, because once it's open, if it folds back over your glove, now that's, you've contaminated things. So I always give it a little snap to make sure it stays open. Gloves are always in a sterile package positioned with the thumb in anatomical position. Remember anatomical position? So that's how gloves are packaged. So the thumb is on the outside, so you're going to grab, get them lined up, and this is the tricky part sometimes. Handle the cuff only, it's folded back for you. Okay, okay, so I've got one, that's good. Okay, one's on. Now this is sterile. I can grab any part of this. We teach you to grab the cuff because that's, you can't touch with this hand. So now I'm going to grab, get my thumb in here, line them up. Okay, now I've got two sterile gloves. Now I can go back, if I didn't get those fingers just the way I liked them on the first hand, I can go back with my sterile glove and do that. Resist the urge to go messing around with your cuffs. You see, that's not all neat and tidy, is it? And if you're like me, that kind of drives you just a little bit crazy. Too bad, get over it. Don't go messing with it, because as soon as you do, you're going to touch your arm or some part of the cuff that you already touched, and you'll have broken your sterile field. So you just have to let go of that. Okay, the inside of my wrapper is still sterile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, if I wanted that out of my way, I can get rid of it, or I can just give it a shove. In this case, I'm not doing a dressing change, I'm doing catheterization, so I'm actually going to be working over here. So I'm going to take this. I don't care if this stays sterile, so I'm not going to make any real effort to keep it sterile, because I don't plan to use it as something that's sterile. But it is sterile, so I can touch it like that. Okay? Now, I'm looking to see what I've got here. Okay, so I don't need this. Hey Kim, would you get me one package, another package of the swab sticks?
Yeah. You want to spray too?
Yeah, yeah, that works. We'll pretend, so just drop this in here, and we're going to pretend that that's my lube, so that's all sterile, okay? So I've got my swab sticks, and I've got my lube. If I were using the real lube, I would open it, and I learned to actually open it, squirt it in here, and then run the tip of the catheter into it as you're getting ready to insert it. That's how I learned to do it. Because I learned to leave it in that sheath until you're ready, and pull it out of the sheath, run it into your lube and into the patient. That's how I learned to do it. So when you're practicing in real life, you'll see that obviously there's some variation because of the way we have to practice with our mannequins. But I don't need this tray anymore, so I'm getting rid of my tray. I don't need that for anything, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because I don't need that either. But I am going to take my, this is all sterile. I'm going to check, this is all sterile, everything in here is sterile. I'm going to put this on. I'm going to test my balloon. You see how it inflates? And I do not see, it says 5 mils. So there was 7 mils in here. So I'm gonna put in 5 that it calls for, inflated. There's no leaks, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out. And I'm just gonna leave that attached. There's nothing else I need to really do with that. Okay. See, now I've already screwed up. How am I gonna get this over there? Have I touched the outside of the box yet? Have I contaminated the outside of my box yet? I don't think I have. So I can still grab this, because this was all sterile.
This was on the table.
But that's the bottom of the box. I'm not touching the
Okay.
bottom of the box. So I put it right there. So now that becomes, that's where everything in here is sterile. So as long as I keep everything inside that box that stays sterile, I'm okay. All right? So I've tested my balloon, I'm all set to go. I have my swab sticks here. So now I'm ready to check my patient. I'm gonna go ahead and open the second package, so it's all ready for me to grab. Okay, so I've got my swab sticks, I'm ready to go. All right. Okay, now this is not gonna be my sterile hand anymore. So now I'm going to spread the labia, and I'm not gonna touch anything sterile with my left hand again. So I'm spreading the labia, I'm gonna go down, front to back. Front to back on the other side. Front to back on the inside, the labia minora.
Do we have to say the names of the?
No,
Okay.
front to back on the inside, on the other side. And then right down the center. And in the real person, you are, like in the video, supposed to keep that spread. If they come back together, it's contaminated, you have to start over. It's hard to do that on the mannequins, just warning you. Okay.
You won't fail us, right, if we exit? Okay.
You don't need much of this stuff, by the way, when you're practicing. Okay, so you're gonna grab this, this is all set. So, you know, if you're doing a different technique, you might have to coil it, but at this point, I'm good, so I can put this right in. And so at this point, it's in, okay, and I got urine, okay, so go in just another inch or two. When you get urine, you go in a couple more inches, you insert 5 mils, or whatever your manufacturer calls for, okay. There, you can disconnect that. And now I'm done being sterile at this point. I don't have to stay sterile anymore. So I'm gonna give this a little tug. Okay, so I tugged it. It stopped, so I'm good. So now I don't have to do anything that's sterile anymore. I can take all of this out. I can reposition my patient, get them more comfortable, secure this to the thigh, hang this down on a rack, or a hook on your bed frame, wherever.
You don't have to put that bag down there first.
No, because it's not in a closed system like this, because everything is sterile. And if you've got it dragging around here, you've got the part that has to stay sterile at high risk of being contaminated. So you just leave everything together in the box. You don't have to have that bag hanging down while you're doing the insertion.
The reason I was saying it is just because they say to always keep it below the bladder.
You do,
This is the-
absolutely. But while you're
urine.
inserting it, you
Yeah.
want to keep it all up here
Okay.
because everything has to stay sterile. That's your higher priority.
The weight will pull that sterile end down.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, once you've done it, then you secure it and then you hang it down.
Okay.